So we are talking about incident response and threat mitigation. We've got some great subject matter experts here. We're going to actually let them introduce themselves, and they will give their brief bio, because I've completely forgotten, because I've got dementia. So there you go. So go ahead, Anton.
Hi, my name is Anton Gurov. I manage security and compliance at a company called Hyper. I've been in the startup world for the past 20 years. I've had 4 successful startups here in Boston. So I'm trying to scheme at the 5th one to make it successful as well. The company deals with identity assurance and passwordless tech. So kind of interesting tech stuff.
Cool. Stas?
Yeah, hi, I'm Stas Bajika. I'm the CEO and founder of Compile. We're in next gen governance, risk and compliance, or GRC. My personal background is information security and compliance. Been a CISO multiple times, but it's our first startup venture.
Great. Steven?
Great, thank you. Good morning, everybody. My name is Steve Gorham. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer for OpSWAT. We're a critical infrastructure protection company. I've also have a 28-year military career, currently serving as a major cyber warfare officer for Special Operations Detachment Central.
Is still active?
I'm in reserve, yes.
Oh, terrific. Yeah. Tim, thank you for your service. Tim?
Hello, everyone. My name is Tim Tang with Hughes. I describe myself as a cybersecurity strategist. So a room like next door here is my playground. I'm always looking for kind of new thinking and new solutions in cybersecurity. Hughes is a managed cybersecurity service provider. We integrate market-leading solutions and then provide them as a managed service to the enterprise.
And Hughes, is that derived from Howard Hughes as one of his companies?
It is derived from Howard Hughes, the billionaire. And it is Hughes, the satellite company that you may be familiar with.
Still going strong after all these years. Okay, let's get right into it. So Anton, what are the essential components of an effective incident response plan, and how should organizations tailor these to their specific needs? So essential components.
Don't do anything at all. Don't plan. Just be like Oracle, just deny there's an incident going on.
That's a first, by the way.
I mean, come on, if there's no incident, you don't need an incident response plan.
I get the meme. So.
This is not legal advice.
But in all reality, I think the key thing for me is testing, right? Especially the tabletop exercise that people referred to earlier in earlier presentations, I think is a key to success in any incident response plan, just to make sure you don't fumble when you're actually handling an actual incident. So,
Stas, essential components of an effective incident response plan.
Policy, playbooks, and tabletop exercises and simulations, and they don't have to be anything complicated to begin with. Like just having a simple policy, simple playbook that you can at least run through once a year, just to know what Anton was just saying, like what everyone's role is in an incident if it does occur, but also just having realistic incidents that actually will impact your business and not generic ones goes a long way.
All right, Steve, from the military side, it's testing.
Testing's certainly important. We kind of look at it from, a couple steps. One, preparation, making sure that you understand that you've got your policies in place and you've got your tooling in place. 2, identification, really understanding when something happens in your environment. You've got the baseline set so you can see what's good, what's not good, what an anomaly is. 3, from a containment perspective, when you do have a problem, you have to be able to contain it, right? So you can prevent lateral movement. From containment, then you go into eradication, let's get rid of it, and then move into more recovery, get your systems back up running normal, and then of course, all important lessons learned.
Perfect. Tim Tang, what are the essential components of an effective incident response plan?
I like the kind of process that Steve outlined. I think you want to think in terms of like a forest fire. How do you identify that there's a problem? How do you contain it? How do you get rid of it? And then how do you recover from it? I think one of the thing that I would add to this is the realization that this is going to happen again. So it's not just about dealing with the problem at hand, it's also about dealing with future problems. And so you never want to let a crisis, a data breach go to waste. You want to learn as much as you can possibly from the event so that you can be prepared for the next one and that you can continually improve your cyber defense posture.
Terrific. Anton, can you share an example of a situation where an incident response plan was either particularly successful or one that fell short? What were the lessons learned?
So one event that comes to my mind was something happened at the recent company that I was in. And one of the key things that we try to do in the incident response planning is really dry run some of the potential events that might occur in our organization. And one of the things that we kind of agreed to during those tabletop exercises is to halt the platform, right, in a major significant event. Now, in this particular company, it was kind of a self-inflicted event. We essentially had a multi-tenant platform. We cross-contaminated some data between the tenants, but the decision was very easy to make because we already pre-agreed on it during a tabletop exercise to halt the platform, to sanitize it, right, to do the data cleanup, to establish the clean room, and proceed with the recovery. So having that pre-agreement in place was actually kind of successful endeavor that we pursued. So.
Gotcha. Stas, can you share an example of a great event and or a bad event with an incident response plan?
I think the bad events speak for themselves. I mean, Anton was just referring to one about Oracle, but if you look at it, how many companies over the past couple of years have been down for multiple days or weeks trying to recover or paying out ransomware, and you don't really hear of good ones that often because if they have a decent incident response plan, they tend to not make the news, or it's very
It's not shared.
Yeah, it's not shared, for sure. But this really just comes down to having a centralized location for having all of your documents, all of your contracts, all of your legal regulations, requirements. So if you do have an incident that if a customer is involved or if a vendor is involved and it's in a certain state or country, these are my immediate reporting requirements. This is my media guide. This is how I communicate out. Companies don't, vast majority of companies don't have this in place, but just having all that at your fingertips will really reduce the scramble that will happen when an incident is taking place and just streamline all the processes. So it's not a huge effort to do this as well. It's just taking the initiative to do it.
Steve, can you share a major success or a major failure, and what were the lessons learned?
Yeah, so one of the incidents that I was involved in a few years back, our detection mechanism was fantastic. We found out sub 15 minutes that there was an anomaly in the network, and we were able to contain that segment pretty quickly. Where things kind of fell apart was when we were looking at our communication plan. The team that was established and put together started communicating on many different platforms, right? Which was problematic because we had some folks saying information here, some folks saying information there, et cetera, so we were missing things. Additionally, our attorney-client privilege was at risk of being lost because we didn't have the correct communication mechanism in place to make sure that was all protected. So from a tabletop exercise perspective, we seem to be focused more on our detection and containment process versus how are we going to communicate it, how are we going to facilitate it once we're going through the incident.
That's actually question number 4 on communication. How did you detect, did you use machine learning or AI? How did you find out that you were being breached?
Yes, this was a UEBA actually on the host system that detected it we had a SIM, and we actually had an automated playbook that looked for that use case, and so we were able to bring that to attention of the SOC analyst. SOC analyst dug into it and saw that in fact there was an issue. Come to find out, it was a credential that was harvested and used because MFA was not put in place for that particular system.
What was the first thing you did when you found out about the breach? The first action you did?
The first action we did was I was the incident leader, which we had defined, and I immediately declared an incident and established the incident response team.
Gotcha. So alerted everyone that needs to know. Tim, a major failure or a major success, and lessons learned?
Wow. I think in cybersecurity, you learn actually more from your failures than anything else. I would say that, as a managed service provider in cybersecurity, we are constantly evolving our cyber posture. And several years ago, we actually introduced the network detection response. We were using AI to sample east-west traffic to identify basically threats that were happening in our solution. We had a large multi-billion-dollar enterprise that was completely confident in their cyber posture. And when we introduced the solution, we detected a problem. We detected a failure in their posture, and it was politically incorrect to share this information with them. They didn't want to hear it, and it was I guess the big lesson learned is it's not enough to just detect problems. It's also being able to navigate your leadership, the politics of highlighting issues too as well. And unfortunately, we were right. We did find the problem. Unfortunately, the customer didn't trust the data, and I think it's painful to watch that. Everything worked. The technology worked. We took a small sample of data. We identified the threat, but they could not take action.
Tim, define what do you mean politically incorrect to share that? What do you mean by that?
People don't want to hear that they have a problem.
Yeah.
And I guess the bigger the organization is, they don't want to. They're like, well, and granted, we were using some at the time rather new technologies. And so to tell them, hey, you have a problem, you have a threat. Here's what we've detected. The first instance was, wait a minute, no, this. You're telling me my baby is ugly. You're telling me that my pride and joy is not doing what they're supposed to be doing, and I can't accept that. And so that was the problem.
Wow, crazy. It's like, Houston, we have a problem. No, we don't. And touching upon the communication, Steve, that you went there, let's go right to it. How do you manage communication and coordination amongst teams when responding to complex threats? So, feeding off of what Steve said, communications, what's your methodology for communicating a breach?
Communication.
And what can you share as, like, what do you think best practices should be in communicating an incident? Go ahead.
If you're talking about external communication, right, I think transparency is the key.
It could be both, internal and external, of course.
So for the internal stuff, right, generally the way we handle incidents through communication tooling, right, that we have existing in our company. Like, big fan of Slack, right, and Slack helps you kind of organize the response within the channels within Slack. And so one of the key benefits of using a text-based type solution, right, is because you have a paper trail with a timeline of the events, all the statements made. And so when you have a running incident like a WebEx or Zoom, right, people can read up on things ahead of time before jumping in, right? Instead of jumping in and asking, what's going on, what's happening, right? Like, and disrupting the actual resolution of the particular incident. I do, encourage sometimes to use the high bandwidth communications like Zoom and WebEx stuff for handling and coordinating things when you need that high bandwidth communications. But I generally prefer to steer people to kind of use the chat-based tools. But obviously with the Zoom and the WebEx now, with the AI assisting tooling, right, you can get the note taker as well to kind of dump the information in to text mode. It's very useful during the RCA and kind of establishing the timeline.
Sure. Stas?
Yeah, I mean, I would also get a retainer going with an IR firm as well. If you're not an expert in the space, you're not gonna, you want to rely on somebody that's done this before, that has the expertise in it, and having all that paperwork already lined up and ready to go. And when an incident does happen, instead of trying to scramble for someone to help you, really goes a long way.
I do want to double down on this one. Getting an incident retainer company is very easy now. Some of them range from a free pre-agreed package, and some of them actually do have package deals where you can use the credits for other activities like tabletop exercise, training, etc., pen testing.
Totally worth it.
Yeah.
Steve, how do you manage communications? I know you kind of touched upon it with what you did before, and then we can also touch upon external. So internal, I know you went right to it, but go ahead.
Yeah, no, absolutely, thank you. From first and foremost, having a prescribed communication platform identified before the breach happens is paramount. Like, folks need to know that this is where we're going to go to communicate. To hit the point earlier from a transparency perspective, it's paramount, particularly for your external customers, right? Being transparent, but you do have to balance the information that you're given, because you have an active 100% investigation going on that could be criminal in nature as well. So you have to balance it, but you owe that to your customers, you owe that to your stakeholders for actual sit reps that are happening in a frequent manner, and making sure they're scheduled so that folks aren't looking, well, when are they going to give me an update? It's, hey, we give an update twice a day on this hour and that hour. and I found that to be very effective. And the last thing I'll hit on is I'll echo the IR statement, but also when you look at your cyber insurance policies and you look at your liability policies, they have set firms a lot of times that they'll cover, right, for the incident. So if you can establish that relationship beforehand with that firm already, it's going to help you out quite a bit when you actually have to respond to an incident.
I'm thinking also that you maybe need an external backup line of communication if someone has compromised your network, because that criminal is now monitoring your communications. It's like the criminal grabbing the walkie-talkie and listening in on the police as they're about to make the case. Go ahead.
No, that's exactly the point when you think about it. You don't want to be inadvertently guiding your bad actor on all your mitigation efforts to basically stop them and to contain them then too as well. I think your external communications, I would encourage you to pay particular attention to that, as that will be that's what you'll be held accountable to post-breach. That's what everybody will be coming after you for, as to when did you disclose the nature of the breach. And then in addition to some of the other comments, you want to pay attention to your regulatory obligations then too as well, which vary state by state, vary industry by industry, and so you want to be particularly clean on that front too as well. So you think about it from an external perspective of, what are your obligations for your customers, for your management, and then for your own internal employees? What are your obligations to the state, to the industry? What regulatory obligations do you have as well?
So Tip, what is your suggestion for the internal communications with an external pipeline? Are you just texting each other? What are the leaders of your company? How are they talking to each other without letting the adversary know what the next move is? What would be your plan?
Well, I wouldn't want to tell you here in this public environment and let everybody else know.
Damn.
But I would suggest that you find an out-of-band, maybe I'll just leave it at that, an out-of-band channel by which that you're planning to basically have all your communications done that would be secure and confidential.
Just don't add a recorder into it.
There you go.
I was going to go Signal.
It's always good advice.
All right. Well, just let me see. We have 11 minutes left. Why don't we do this question? What are the best practices for sharing threat intelligence with external partners or industry groups? Best practices for sharing threat intelligence.
Well, my point of view on this one is if you're a large organization, you probably already have some tooling in place, right? Some vendor management software that has baked-in components to do that kind of communications outbound to your vendors. If you're a small player, right, and working with the larger organizations, it will be force-fed to you.
Yeah.
Stas.
Yeah, I mean, there's also bug bounties on a lot of sites as well, where you can report this type of stuff to them. But generally, I mean, yes, if you're a large player, you will have threat analysis in place. Unfortunately, a lot of the time the data isn't accurate, which has been my experience with it. So you also need a team to be able to go through the false positives and identify it, and also decide what it is that you care about as an organization.
Steve?
Yeah, so I mean, definitely piggyback. I mean, the force-fed bit of it, right? Depending on your size, you're going to get force-fed a bunch of things. But also just taking part in information security advisory councils, establishing those reciprocity relationships. So no matter what your size is, if you are able to provide to the greater pot, making sure that your data is structured with traffic light protocols, so it's easier to consume, red, white, blue, etc., or red, white, green, etc. And then also making sure that you structure that data, taking advantage of sticks and taxi, which are just the way that you structure the language to share this intelligence between the two and transport it to one another.
I'd like to double click on those ISACs. I highly encourage you. Cybersecurity is not the basis by which you're going to compete in your industries. Cybersecurity is a necessary core to your operations, and the bad actors are all collaborating together. So why would you want to go individually against a whole community of bad actors? It's the good guys who need to come together as a community too as well. And there are a number of industry-specific communities that actually focus, for example, some of the ones that I participate in are in addition to looking at broader cybersecurity concerns, very focused on specific problems of cybersecurity in the convenience store industry and all those specific threats and specific breaches and the like. So each industry, in addition to the general concerns of cybersecurity, are going to have their own problems with pumps being compromised and bad actors stealing fuel and those kind of elements as well.
Terrific. And what metrics, Anton, what metrics should organizations use to evaluate the success of their incident response and threat mitigation efforts?
I want to say, if you are a company that's under some regulation or compliance requirement, getting results of your audits is a good metric to look into, specifically in the area around the incident response. That's a good thing to keep an eye on. Obviously, there's standard metrics out in the industry, like the mean time to discovery, right? Recovery and all those things, right? And time between the incidents. Those are kind of industry standard things, but they also do rely on you being able to keep track of the incidents, having a good register, right? Where you can use that data to analyze and classify it and drive conclusions out of it. So that's, for me, like the primary ones.
Yeah, I mean, I'd piggyback off that as well. I mean, it's it's going back to having everything in a central location to be able to track it, monitor it, root cause analysis, RTO, RPO if it's relevant, and just align up the playbooks and see how well they actually worked versus what actually happened if you even had playbooks, and then continuously improve your solutions, continuously tune your SIEMs, your SOCs, just continuously improve your environment.
Steve, metrics?
Yeah, so I mean, outside of the tactical ones, mean time to detect, mean time to respond, et cetera, which kind of just shows you how well you're operating as an organization. I think some of the things that you also want to look at is going back to that preparation phase, that tabletop exercise phase, like participation percentage between all of the different stakeholders in your organization, and using that as a driving metric, because that's going to help you recognize who's supposed to be there that's not there, which you don't want to find that out during an incident.
And I would just throw on there, you want to align your cyber defense postures with the evolution of your business. Many businesses are now becoming more and more IoT centric, more and more focused on automating in order to get those efficiencies and like. All of us are being asked to do more with less, and that requires data, that requires sensors, that requires the ability to ingest all these things. But that also involves a lot of devices that can't protect themselves. And so as your architecture and your infrastructure kind of evolves, you want your cyber defense postures to also evolve as well.
So to continue the conversation after the panel is done, Tim, what does Hughes provide? What can the audience learn by stopping by your booth? What services?
Hughes is a managed cybersecurity. What we do is we integrate market-leading technologies, and then we provision, and we're provisioning them as a managed service. Our goal is to make cybersecurity more accessible to the enterprise marketplace.
Terrific. OpSWAT, what is OpSWAT?
Sure. So OpSWAT's a critical infrastructure protection company, and as you think about what that means, we're really focused on protecting the critical infrastructure, the things that make our way of life possible, whether that's water, electric, nuclear, et cetera. But we cover everything from the information technology side of the house, all the data that comes into your environments, and how that data traverses through your environment, all the way to the operational technology side of the house. So if you think about all the different ways we consume data, whether it be email, file upload, whatever that might be, OpSWAT technology provides different platforms to be able to make sure that that data is sanitized, whether it's taking advantage of multi-AV scanning, whether it's true zero-day prevention with content disarm and reconstruct. So no matter how you consume the data, OpSWAT has a platform or a way for you to make sure that that data is in fact sanitized before it gets to the ultimate end system.
Okay. Stas, what can they learn by stopping by the Compile booth?
Yeah, so with Compile, I've been talking about the centralized repository for all things incident. So what we're seeing, what we're doing is, if you have a vendor and the vendor has their SOC 2, their ISO, their MSAs, NDAs, everything that you know about the vendor is all in one place, all their contract information, but also it has all of the privacy information related to state rules and EU regulations and all of that. So if you do have an incident, for example, like what we're really good at is, somebody loses a hard drive in transit. We know that it had vendor data and client data on it. It happened in Ohio, for example, or in California. It will automatically pull all the data together for you, create an incident response plan, suggest playbooks that already exist within the platform, and then literally give you step-by-step playbooks. It's not perfect, but it certainly speeds up the time, the mean time to the time to respond. And we've just seen like everything in one place. All the root cause analysis is there. You can keep all the communication channels there for records and after processing. So like that's what we do.
Hence the name Compile.
That's right. That's
You
exactly
compile
it.
everything. And hyper, I guess you're going at hyper speed. Why should people see you at your booth? What do you guys offer?
Yeah, one of the things that we offer is passwordless authentication. And the second big item that we handle is identity assurance of your employees. One of the key things for me has always been, really analyzing the problems, and instead of trying to sometimes find solutions to a particular set of problems, right, and getting wrapped up around this, sometimes eliminating the problem entirely is the way to go. And for me, right, if you look at Verizon Data Breach Report, 80% of compromises stem from authentication and credential compromises. And that's where we essentially can eliminate that big chunk of the risk. That's what the company does. So.
Excellent. Guys, give it up for our panel here. Thank you, guys.